So before we begin with the questions, and there's quite few that I have with me, I would like to mention that what you have done with NexCruise is fantastic. I mean, it's quite relaxing to drive the car now. It's more techno built because of that. We have a lot of options. I think even the EVs that are there in the market, even the costlier ones, do not have those facilities. So it's a one of the best innovations I've come across. So thank you so much from the Nexon community that you have provided such a well-defined product for us. Great. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Sushan.
Okay, so we'll start with the question. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, fine. I was just saying that it's basically a collective work as everybody has been involved in, and it's basically taken shape all in front of us. So I've just played my part, and it's been an honor doing that.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll start with a very basic question. So that's something that I'm coming from my experience that I've seen many times. Does the NexCruise turn on after we unlock the vehicle?
Yes, exactly. So the NexCruise turns on. It is basically a slave of the car itself, the car's electronics itself. It takes a signal from the VCU that okay, now the car is powered on, and then it turns itself on. Although it's not power all the time from the 12-volt auxiliary battery, but it switches itself on when the car's electronics is on. And as soon as you turn on the car, or even do some activity in the car, like just pull on the unlock the door, or probably plug in the charging cable, whatever. If there's some activity, then the electronics turn on, and then the NexCruise also turns on immediately. And that is indicated by the state LED. If it is glowing white, that means the NexCruise is on and it is healthy. It is ready to go.
Okay. So multiple times I've seen that even while we are using we turn off the vehicle, we come out of it, it still keeps on going on and off, because I think you already answered that question, because it's the console that turns it on and off. So as it is drawing battery from the battery, how much of a battery it is consuming? Let's say if we keep the ignition on for the whole day, how much battery do you think NexCruise will consume without turning on the vehicle?
It's negligible. It's like as much as a few LEDs, which is 1 milliampere, I would say, 5 milliampere, somewhere like that. And that is in terms of battery. If only NexCruise was drawing power, it would take probably 12 to 15 years for the battery to drain only out of that power. So it is basically negligible.
Okay, understood. Okay, I'll come to the next question now. So while using cruise mode, so at times when we are driving on a highway and we would like to switch to the S mode because we have to overtake. Let's say we are without a border, we are running in a highway and we want to overtake. So we may want to have cruise engaged and S mode turned on. We might go up to 80 to 90. After we have gone back to the drive mode after S mode, will the speed go back to its almost cruising mode that we had earlier set? Will that work or not?
Yeah, so of course, in the present software release, it will work. Although having said that, NexCruise, the features are not intended to be engaged in S mode because we have not tuned it for the S mode. It is primarily, it's an energy conservation system, energy management system. So when we are looking forward to get the maximum range out of the battery, naturally we won't want to use the S mode. But having said that, in the present firmware, which is the version 6, when you switch to S mode, it will go. You'll still be able to cruise, and then you can accelerate like as per the current implementation. If the cruise is engaged, for example, at 60 kilometers per hour, if you accelerate it, it will let the car go above 60, and then when you release the pedal, it will come back to 60 and resume cruising.
Lovely. Yeah. Are we expecting any hiccups while using S mode in such a situation?
Yeah, I mean, at higher speeds, there won't be any perceptible difference, but at lower speeds, you will clearly be able to tell that it is not really made for S mode. There's nothing risky, it is still safe, but it is quite simply we have not worked on S mode at all, and we don't intend to, we want to keep our job the minimum because we want to limit the scope and really solve the pain point rather than trying to tick all the boxes.
Understood. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. You introduced eco and deep eco modes within this system. Okay, just for everybody's knowledge, in depth knowledge, I would say, what are these modes in terms of power consumption? How do they help?
Sure, sure. So basically, fundamentally, where all does the power go? Where do we lose energy in an EV or for that matter in any car? Number one, when we are accelerating, and number two, when we face forced regeneration. Then at these two instances, we lose energy. So eco and deep eco modes uh, help us conserve the energy when the car is accelerating. So quite simply, uh, so the Nexon EV or other Tata EVs like Tigor, they give us the drive and the sports mode, but the eco mode is missing. But at the same time, on the
Mm-hmm.
dashboard, we can see that the eco marker is there. So we decided to fill that gap. That okay, let's give the eco mode so that so basically what simply happens is the acceleration is moderated. So for example, if from going from 0 to 60, you use X amount of energy in D mode, then in eco mode it will use only zero point 0.7 times that, so 70% of that, somewhere like that. And it is also a good thing to know that eco really doesn't give any benefit when the car is going at a constant speed because there is
Okay.
no acceleration or deceleration involved. It's a constant speed. So eco only helps to conserve the power when the car is taking off, not when it is going at a constant speed. So that's why. So that's why you will see the maximum effect or impact of eco in city traffic, whereas it's a stop and go traffic. But on highways, once you have achieved the cruising speed and it's going flat, then it doesn't really matter if you're engaging the eco or not because there's only a handful of ramps. Ramps. When I say ramps, I mean car going from 0 to the cruising speed. Only a handful of such instances in hundreds of kilometers. So the impact is going to be very small. But in city
Okay.
like where you have to stop at every other crossing, then eco will really show its contribution. So
Okay.
that's what eco is. And
Mm-hmm.
deep eco, so deep eco was basically born out of our experience doing long drives with Nexon EV when we were forced to hypermile. So hypermile is a classic, is a standard term when we try to maximize the miles out of the car in a unit charge or unit gallon of fuel. So when we are hypermiling the car, we want to squeeze out every last drop of energy and convert it into miles. So so we really want to be mindful of I don't want to waste even a tiny sliver of energy in accelerating. So if I do it manually, I really need to watch the energy graph and make sure that I don't cross one or two divisions of the energy graph, right?
Mm-hmm.
So deep eco mode automatically does that for you. It will automatically limit it to one box of energy, which is roughly 15% of the maximum energy in the D mode. So it will force you to spend only 15% of the energy, and so consequently it will not let any energy go waste because of unwanted acceleration. And at the same time, this also should be understood that this is not a speed limit; it is an energy limit. So the car will still go to 60 kilometers an hour or 70 kilometers an hour, but it will take much longer to reach there because you are allowing only a fraction of the energy. So it will go there really slowly, and you are also sure
Mm-hmm.
that you are maximizing the battery, the energy out of it. So that's what. So deep eco is kind of a guarantee or kind of a fail-safe method to hypermile your car. If you must achieve 300 kilometers range out of your Nexon EV, then deep eco is what you want. Uh, Deep eco, like there are subjective opinions on this, but while coding for it, while introducing it, we didn't mean it to be used in the cities because the car really gets sluggish and it is not worth driving in a city. It will cause traffic jams and people will honk, and I'm pretty sure all the NextCruise owners would have faced those situations. So it is basically to really learn. NextCruise is just a set of tools. It gives you a toolkit to be used in each and every situation. It is, kind of a Swiss knife of energy. But then you cannot just throw in any mode and expect magic out of it. It is like you need to really
Correct.
know when what should be needed, what should be used, and you'll always find a solution. That is the comfort and the confidence that NextCruise gives the owner. But you cannot just throw in deep eco and hope that you'll get great range. It will just, if it's in a city, it will give you really painful times. So that's how.
I
So I
think
hope
from
that
the eco
answers your
and deep,
question.
yes, it does. It totally does. And it's like when somebody is switching from an ICE vehicle to the electronic vehicle, at times their usage of paddle is too much. These modes probably will help them adjust to the things much easier. I mean, I took maybe 10 to 11 drives to get accustomed to it. I would say these people or the new people who are getting into EV, maybe one or two drives, I think they will get adjusted to it. At least they will start
Very
liking the
rightly
range.
said. Very rightly
And
said,
DP.
Sushan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
as you rightly said, that there is a learning curve when somebody switches from ICE to EV, because in ICE we are not really mindful about how the energy is being utilized, because we have ample, like abundance of fuel stations all the time. So we really don't
Correct.
need to be mindful. But in this case, the penalty of not being mindful is not tiny if you're on
It's
a highway. So yeah. True. And NextCruise is meant to help that transition, because people make a buying decision looking at the range of the marketed range of the car, which is say 312 kilometers. Now they really need that 312 kilometers, because many people would be buying it to maybe go to their hometown, which is nearby, maybe a couple hundred kilometers away. And if the car doesn't
Mhm.
deliver, then their entire purpose of getting the car goes waste. And we can really understand why it results in agony. But the interesting part is that car can deliver. The unpredictability comes because of the manual driving pattern or manual mistakes that the drivers make, because they don't know the EV style of driving yet. So NextCruise
Correct.
is meant to automatically do it for them, and just press a few buttons and let the car drive itself optimally, and get close to the promised range or the ideal range as a result. So that's what.
Cool. Thanks, Akash. So we'll move on to the next question. This is something that I felt myself.
Mhm.
While I was descending, and I had cruise set to maybe 60 speed, and when I was descending, I was facing a little bit of jerks. Is there something that we can do to
Yes.
reduce that?
Yes, Sushan. In fact, that's a valid observation, and I'll also like to put a couple of do's and don'ts on record around this. So when the car is descending, it is basically still trying to maintain the cruising speed, and while climbing or while at a even plane, it is doing that by injecting energy, but while descending, it is doing it by injecting regeneration, by braking the car. Now, at the moment, so it is possible to tune the NextCruise and deliver a software over the air update, so that only a tiny amount of region or the optimum amount of region happens, and it is not so jerky, it is not so aggressive. So the jerks are coming because the region is aggressive. When the car decelerates, it goes below 60, the cruising speed, then the region turns off, then it rolls more than 60. So this oscillation is happening. So it is
Mm-hmm.
possible to tune it properly and deliver the benefit as a software update. It is not simple. It's kind of a rather involved control loop. This is one of the wish lists. This is one of the to-do lists that we really want to do it for the NextCruise owners. But before actually doing it, I won't be able to put a promise here. But let's see what future has in store, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to solve it. Meanwhile, if you're descending and you want to avoid the jerks, you can turn on the coast mode. So essentially what that does is that it will turn off the regenerative braking. So now the car will be able to accelerate and roll further, and For example, the cruising speed is 60, but now the car can, while descending a flyover or a slope, it will exceed 60, which is fine. I mean, end of the day, it's about conservation of energy. And when we are rolling, we are not using up energy. We are still getting miles, which is good. So within the limits of safety, you can let it roll down. So essentially,
Mhm.
while with cruising, if you put on the coast mode, the jerks will go away.
Cool. That's a good suggestion. Thanks, Akash. So something that comes in everybody's mind is NextRules a
Mhm.
magic wand which can give us better efficiency? Is it?
So basically, yeah, that's a very pertinent question, Sushan. Thanks for bringing it up. Uh, we took utmost care not to market the NextCruise as a range enhancement device. It is an energy management device. It is not a magic range enhancement device. But as a byproduct, range definitely increases in a lot of cases because it optimizes the driving pattern automatically and conserves energy, which translates into more range. So yes, users should expect good range, impact on range in a positive sense, but it is definitely not a magic wand. We really need to understand all the modes. You know, the coast mode, which turns off the region, the deep eco mode, and the cruise, and so why are they working? And we need to use the right tool at the right place. Then we can definitely expect real good benefit from the next cruise. But otherwise, to drive a nail into wood, you need a hammer. You cannot use a pair of pliers. So likewise, you need to know what each tool is meant for. So that's how.
Correct.
So just to in a nutshell, if I summarize all the tools that the NextCruise gives, is number one the of course the cruise is there. I pretty much assume that everybody knows what cruise is, uh, but how does it conserve the energy? I want to throw some light on that. When we are manually driving and trying to maintain a constant speed, we are not really able to because manual control is limited. So I'm not even talking about the convenience and other factors. But even if we're trying to maintain a constant speed, we are not able to. There is always wiggle in the energy, and every time that energy graph is going downwards, it means regen is happening. Regenerative braking is happening. So tiny regenerative brakings keep happening, which translate into loss of energy on highways. So yeah, this is one more myth that we should bust here. Regen does not always mean a good thing. Regen or regenerative braking or conservation of energy due to regeneration is good when we want to actually stop the car, which is relevant in a city setting, the stop and go traffic, where we want to stop at the next crossing, then we want to harvest the kinetic energy back into the battery. But on a highway, this becomes an unwanted situation. I want to zip along at 80 kilometers an hour, but as soon as I take my foot off the pedal, the car decelerates. Although it is harvesting the energy into battery, but I don't want that. And like our basic laws of physics tell that when we are converting energy from one form to another, it is always loss is involved. So when we are converting mechanical energy into electrical, we lose energy in the process. And that loss is basically loss of miles. So we don't want regen on highways, forced regen. So coast is useful mostly on highways, not in city. Having said that, now that you know, you can see if it works for you and you can start using it. Likewise, as I said, deep eco was intended to be used on highways because the ideal situation was what I had in mind while coding for it was, for example, you need to really get 300 kilometers from the car, then you should put the cruise at say 60 kilometers an hour, put the deep eco mode on, and just let the car cruise. Resume long press the dial and let the car take its own sweet time to reach 60 and let it take its own sweet time to cruise along at 60. And you can sit back and relax with the assurance that the car will give you great miles. So that's what. But having said that, once we get the hang of the behavior, we can decide wherever it is useful or not. Correct. So
Correct.
that is what coast, eco, and deep eco is there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Your
Akash.
turn.
I think there are a couple of people asking questions. You want to answer them first before we move on?
Yeah. Yes, you can please take that.
Sorry, should I continue or you want to answer those questions? I think Bharat Gundecha and a couple of maybe Amar has put some questions on the
Yes.
system.
So probably you can take them up, you can read them out, and then we can discuss them.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me see. Okay. So, question from Bharat. While cruising and coasting, we gain speed. Will it maintain this speed while we are on plain road, which is increased from down rolling?
It will not maintain, like for example, if we are cruising at 60 kilometers an hour and by coasting or coming down a flyover, we gain the speed to 70 or 75, then it is not going to be maintained. The next cruise will always hold the speed at 60, but it won't force the car to to 60. It will let it take its own rolling. The car will keep rolling, and due to mechanical resistance or wind resistance, eventually it will come back to 60 where the speed will be held. So I think that answers the question.
Probably.
Good.
Okay. We'll move on then. Okay. So the next one that I have with me, I think you already experienced one situation wherein one of your partners was asking how to get the best uh, range. I would say 250 or 260 kilometers on the highway. So what is the
Mm.
specific setting we should do to get that range?
Okay, so basically the question is, suppose I know that I have to go this many kilometers, for example, 250 kilometers, then how can I ensure I have NexCruise with me? How can I ensure that I'll actually go the distance? Is that the question?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so I will just share what I do, but we have really great gurus in our group. So probably in one of the subsequent sessions we'll take this again. But anyway, I'll just
Mhm.
share my recipe. Number one, when I know that I have to go this many kilometers, as per the Google Maps, so first thing I do is add a margin on top of that, because as we know that the Nexon EV has got a 5% error in the Odo. So if the Google Maps tells it's 100 kilometers, and you actually drive that many kilometers, you will see 105 kilometers on the Nexon EV Odo. So quite simply add 10% on how much you want to go. So if you want to go to 50 kilometers, add 25 kilometers to that, right? And know that you need to go 275 kilometers actually. Next, the next thing is that ensure that the car is all set for maximum mileage, which is the tire pressure. So I myself keep the tire pressure on the higher side, because then the surface area of the tire, the contact surface with the road decreases, and that results in less rolling friction. So maybe 33 psi in the summers and maybe 34 or 35 psi in the winters. Though that is unsafe in another ways, but purely speaking of maximizing the range, we need to keep higher pressures. Okay, so that's it. And third, very important thing which I learned from one of the community members: make sure that the car's wheels are aligned, because unaligned wheels give a lot of friction, and that will, I don't know, that will really reduce the range. And you can simply do an experiment on this and see it for yourself. Put the car in coast mode, and if your car is unaligned, you'll see that, say, bring the car to say 70 kilometers an hour, and then take the foot off the pedal and let the car roll. You'll see that if the car is not aligned, the wheel alignment is not there, it will very rapidly come down to 60 or something. But if the car is aligned, it will take a longer time to come to the same, lose the same speed. So the important thing is that the car should be aligned, and the tire pressure is good, and you have added the margin. Then there is a rule of thumb that, okay, this much you need to go, then this should be the cruising speed. It is more or less, in our community, it is more or less common knowledge. But I'll wait for Samir Patil ji to elaborate on this in one of the subsequent sessions. But if it is more than 250, you need to keep it lesser than 70 kilometers an hour. This is what I follow. So if I have to go to 175, I'd probably stick to 60 kilometers. an hour cruising speed. And I'll turn on the coast mode and put the car on cruise at 60 kilometers an hour. And then I would target that the initial 25% of SOC should give me 75 kilometers or more. More is actually very wishful thinking, but 75 kilometers. If I'm able to drive 75 kilometers in 25% SOC, that means that I have achieved 300 kilometers range in my initial leg of the journey, which is golden. Then I can keep, then of course, with the new buffer that now I've now got, I can increase my cruising speed if I can afford that, and I can tweak. So it's just to be mindful of the initial 25% SOC and how many kilometers I've gained, and basically keep an eye on that and use that number, that kilometers per SOC, that number to decide your subsequent cruising speed. And I think that will set you up. That then there's no range anxiety needed. You will always know confidently that okay, I'll definitely get this many kilometers per percent of SOC. So that's why that multiplied by 75%, I'll definitely get this many kilometers and I can enjoy my drive. That's it. So that's what I do. I mean,
No, that's
but
a pretty good
I,
suggestion. I think we can go with that.
so Sushan, you yourself have been driving up and down. You're really so you made a trip to Shimla from Delhi. And what are your own observations and suggestions? Probably that would be interesting to have.
I think this time I
How,
tried the cruise mode while going uphill. That was really relaxing. I mean, I set it at 50. It was cruising very smoothly with limited power consumption. I think I did your device did a better job than my foot. I would say that. Okay. And while descending, I did not use cruise. I used the coast mode. What I used to do is press the paddle. It started regen, and then press the accelerator paddle again. It removed the regen and re-engaged the coast mode. I think this feature is it's perfect the way it works. And I was able to actually get roughly 10% battery regen during my descent from Shimla to Chandigarh.
to Chandigarh?
Yes.
Nice. So we have 2 more minutes to go. So let us uh, cover some more questions before we
Sure.
close.
Yes. So just wanted to check how many orders have been fulfilled till date and how many are still pending.
Okay, so early adopters and pre-orders are done. Early adopters was 100 odd orders. Pre-orders was 136 or somewhere 140 orders. So more than 200 devices are already out there in the wild, and doing pretty good. 5% is the error rate that we are facing at the moment. So
Mhm.
basically, out of these 200, we are facing 10 odd customers. So we had to replace their devices or do some things, all that. So, and then we have a good order book for the this month and the coming months. So maybe another 200 devices will be out there in the coming 2 months. So that's how it
Okay. So
is at the moment.
I think you are already reaching 500 with that, and maybe 1,000 maybe in a few more months. Great.
I mean,
Wish you all the best for that.
thanks.
Um, so 2021 ended with the NexCruise launch. What is in store for us this year?
Okay, wow. So basically, I won't be in a position to, actually fully answer that because, things are in the pipeline, they're still cooking. But I would, just like to share that NextCruise, in its current form, has solved the problem of highway driving, majorly highway driving, or patches where there is relatively less traffic. So now we want to address the bumper to bumper stop and go traffic. We want to do something about that. And we will, when we are
Okay.
doing this, we'll make sure that the existing NextCruise owners, their investment into NextCruise stays relevant. It stays, so it's not, we are going to make sure that they can remain in the bandwagon and can benefit immediately from the the new development and innovation that comes up, if it is able to come up. But we are still working. It is in a very nascent stage, so I won't be really able to share more than this at the moment. Sorry for that, but hope you understand.
See, everybody has to wait for a surprise. So the feeling is always better than knowing the reality. So it's okay. We'll all will wait for the next things to come.
It's the community that gives all the energy, man. It's like it's a totally different experience for me and the entire team here. And the community driven and community blessed way of innovation is something that we have never experienced, and we are feeling like so energetic, and everything can be achieved. That's what we keep feeling all the time. So yes, uh, we are committed to delight each and every one of the community members.
Great.
That's all.
That's all. I did have more questions, but I think we are out of time. So
if there is some important or pertinent question, probably we can take that, and then we can call this session a closure.
maybe just a quick one. Any precautions do you recommend, like do's or don'ts, while using NexCruise? Anything?
Yeah, one thing, of course, we can, for example, if NexCruise detects an error or it develops an internal error, then what it does is it ignores the accelerator pedal. So it is a typical D to N scenario that the user is going to face. Okay, that the car will stop responding to accelerator input. So although it is a rare case, but I still want to share it because a known unwanted situation is always good to have rather than taken aback by surprise. So if the car accelerator pedal stops responding, then no need to panic. It is like a regular D2N scenario that we face even without NexCruise and Nexon EV. We face this oftentimes. And then what you need to do is pull aside and then note the color of the LED light bar. It basically shows a pattern of lights color coded, and the error is color coded into that. So when you let us know that you have faced this problem, we will want to know from you what is the colors that you see on the light bar. That will help us diagnose what is the exact error. So this is what maybe I want to say do's and don'ts. But other than that, NexCruise is supposed to be pretty seamless. It is supposed to disappear into the car itself and let you enjoy the entire thing. So that's what I'd like to share.
Perfect. There's one small question. This is very important for people in Delhi, Jaipur, or Rajasthan, or nearby places where the heat is very high. And I think this year, I think we might touch 48, 49 very easily in the upcoming months. Do you think that this much heat, let's say if a car is sitting in the sun, my car does, it's 6 hours in the sun for sure. Will the equipment, the dial, the inside console, will that be ruptured or have a problem because of the heat?
Not at all. By design, it's never meant to have that. Basically, because the electronics and the plastics that we have used and everything are industrial grade. So it is the same electronics that's inside the car itself. So basically there are two types of electronics. One is industrial and the other is military. So military is like 115 degrees. It's like, very, and then, but this is industrial grade electronics, and the rest of the car also has the same grade of electronics. So you should not expect any disruption, no matter what the temperature is. You can feel confidently use it.
Perfect. I leave it to this because I think we are out of time and most of the important questions are answered. So thank you so much, Akash, for answering all of them and taking that time out.
Thanks, Sushan. Likewise, I really want to thank you on behalf of the entire AHA team that you compiled this excellent set of questions. And I'd like to tell the audience that Sushan is by profession a person who gets into the nuts and bolts of things and demystifies. Basically, he finds the corner cases on where things break. That's what he does for his living. So he graced the NexCruise project by this level of insights. And when he asked all these questions to me, I requested him to be on this live chat, and benefit the entire audience. So we are going to prepare a set of FAQs out of this and post them on the website so that everybody can refer to them as and when needed. So I want to thank Sushan for taking his time out. Thank you on behalf of the entire AHA team, Sushan.
Most welcome. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, goodbye then. And thanks
Okay.
to the audience for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.